What's something from the 90s you miss? Arcades. Big, noisy arcades. Full of actual video games. Whose graphics were 20 times better than what you could get at home. And the machines took coins. Not this bullshit refillable card system. That is why I'm more of a blatant ripoff. Being able to act goofy without having anyone record it and share with the world. I'll never forget watching a last day of school video from June 2001. And while there's a lot of differences especially in style and fashion, hands down the biggest difference was the relative novelty all the students and teachers gave to the video camera. Like, only this one guy decided to bring in the camera. There were no phones or other recording devices at the time, so it was so cute seeing someone walk up to him and then their eyes go wide and they say oh, a camera. Being recorded was not the norm. And shoot you, I'm in my late 20s still, but June 2001 feels like yesterday to me. Time just ducking moves on ya. Edit, I think this is the video in question. Link. I remember feeling good about myself. If you were good at something, people would let you know that, and you also always knew that one kid who was exceptional at a specific game, that teen who could do awesome tricks on the skate, or a friend who had the most beautiful handwriting you've ever saw, and other things like that, that were special to you, because they felt that they meant something, and they actually did, because you could be watching that level of ability for the last time on your life. Today everything has been mastered by a lot of people constantly displaying it on the internet. We have 24/7, one click away, video footage we can play over and over of them being incredibly awesome on it, and I think it frustrates people. You're never really satisfied on what you're doing, because deep down you know you'll probably be just another 1 in 7 billion. And you're not really paying attention to people anymore either, because it really doesn't matter, whatever it is that they're doing. You can watch someone doing it better on the internet, how many times you want. Anyway, things used to mean something. I miss that. This made me nostalgic and sad simultaneously. I miss the lack of interconnectivity. Like, my summer camp friends were different from school friends. And I didn't really see my summer camp friends outside of July and August. Everything was distinct. When I went from Western New York to New Jersey to see family, it was basically like being on another planet. I think I like everything being more connected, but that sense of distinctness is something I miss. I feel this way about shopping, as shallow as that might sound. I feel like you can get any product anywhere now. I don't mean shit like appliances. Obviously that's fine. But little knickknacks and decorations are now ubiquitous. The interconnectivity of shopping has made everything interchangeable and uniqueness is dead. It used to be that if you went to a different area of the world or even your country and found something cool, you could bring it back and feel like you had something special. I don't even want to buy decorations anymore, because it all feels not only mass produced, but you can't even trust little stores with curios. You can definitely find the same stuff with an internet search. I now literally wait until craft fairs to buy any decorations for my home, and make sure it's something that person made, and not something they are just middlemaning. I got a house in 2019, and it's still only half decorated. But to me that's preferable to filling it with stuff that you get at Target that everyone else has. I don't judge people for having mass-made things, but it just feels so soulless to me and isn't what I want at my house. Luckily houseplants are always unique individuals, so I have a lot of those, lol. Sometimes I miss the internet from the 90s. It was less stressful, if that makes sense. I'm so glad that the dumbest shit I said as a teenager is hidden away on some defunct video game forums under a screen name that isn't even close to my real name. I feel for today's kids, who know that if they ever do anything noteworthy with their lives, someone will dig through their old tweets and be like, yeah, but look at the shit this guy said as a freshman in high school. The excitement of watching a TV show with your friends at a certain time, and if you missed it, you missed it. We used to have friends emergency room night in college. A bunch of us would gather and watch the shows together. Do people even have watch parties for shows anymore? I feel like Game of Thrones was the last gasp for that. Saturday morning TV. Video games that aren't online, and not having to sign into 3 accounts to play any game. I have my computer set to manually connect to the internet. I still have to sign into Steam to play a game that isn't dependent on an active connection. Thankfully there is an offline mode for Steam, but I shouldn't have to sign in the first place if the game doesn't require a password. My youth. The original release of Pokemon cards. Those were the ducking best. My niece is big into Pokemon now, and she just got a shitload of cards for her birthday. Made me want to start collecting them again. But I look up the packs from my youth and they are astronomical prices. Ah well. Actual 90s aesthetic. It was extreme and alternative. Not family friendly, wacky or dystopian like a lot of people think when they see in Multiply 80s aesthetic. Example, the entire aesthetic of Nickelodeon in the 90s. Slime and extreme shit. Clearly Canadian sparkling water. It came back not long ago, but was limited release, and I could never get any. The original Jolt Cola, not knowing Cosby was such a piece of shit. Being young, relatively healthy. Movies. A lot my favorite movies are mid-sized thrillers from the 90s. A lot of big actors, but not huge spectacles. That segment is dying out. You have huge blockbusters for international markets. Some prestige period pieces. Comedies and indies, and then there are TV shows. But the sort of Harrison Ford's wife is missing. Again, films are severely lacking these days. Being considered smart, not weird, for refusing to make your in real life identity known online. Being social with people, felt so different and authentic. My friends would sometimes just drop by to see if I was home to say hi. We could pick up the phone and have hour-long conversations. It felt like text message cheapened that. The lesser dependence on technology seemed to cultivate more genuine friendships, but that was just my experience. Full-size frosted strawberry Pop-Tarts. They're like half the thickness these days. That and eating them while watching back-to-back episodes of Saved by the Bell on Saturday mornings. Good times. Tamagotchis. No social media. Not always being available. Friends just randomly stopping by your house. Much less political divisiveness. The fact that you had to gather with friends to hang around and start conversations. Not just use your phone and text the whole time. Walking 20 minutes to a mate's house, knocking his door, then finding out he's not in. It was like rolling the dice. I miss the internet being fun and optimistic. I genuinely feel like the internet has gone from the most important and greatest achievement of humanity to something that might have been a mistake during my lifetime. It's really sad, because a global communications network should be a great thing for everyone. I miss not being able to be reached, or being able to reach people. Back then you'd call your friend, and it would ring somewhere in their house. If there was no one there, which was common, you'd shrug and just carry on your day. If you just wanted to chill out on your own, you'd just not answer the phone. Now, everyone knows people are never without their phones. I've had people pissed at me because I took an hour to reply to a text. Affordable housing and the non-existence of social media. In the early 90s, if you had a Hotmail address, you could use their online contact list and contact anyone else that also had a Hotmail address. Not quite social media, but it sure led to some interesting conversations with random people. The music of the 90s was the best, hands down. We even had the best one-hit wonders. The 90s were the last great decade for one-hit wonders. Slap bracelets. Just being perfectly content slapping your wrist for hours on end. It was a simpler time. Optimism. It was a pretty happy decade. The Cold War was over. The economy was booming. Technology seemed to be offering us solutions before we even knew we had a problem. The products of pop culture almost never dwelled on dystopia or decline. Air travel was about as dangerous as bus travel. Acid rain and the hole in the ozone layer were problems of the decade before that seemed to have been fixed. And climate change was still called global warming and was not nearly so front and center in how people talked about the future. All in all, the 90s were a pretty solid decade. When people who posted meaningless bullshit on the internet were considered weirdos instead of celebrities worth building a cult around. If somebody didn't know where you were, it was a whole thing. Like, time to call every one of their friends or start driving around looking for them. When you went to a rave, which were mostly all underground then, you were taught about the responsibility of researching drugs on Irraud. Family-owned convenience stores, diners, burger joints, ice cream parlors, cafes, bookstores, delis, etc. Even small neighborhood grocery stores and independent music venues. Seems like I'm talking about the 50s, but in the 90s these places still existed. In my hometown most of them are completely gone and were replaced by generic corporate chains or condos. The ones that are still around are struggling to stay afloat and compete. I'm glad I got to enjoy them while they existed, but also realized how much I took them for granted. The world being so much smaller, sure there are a lot of really great things about being able to talk to anyone, anywhere at any time, but the appreciation of how big and impressive the world really is because of how hard it was to contact people in different countries and the bonds you formed with people in your closer community is something that is gone forever. The sense of security resulting from the collapse of the Soviet Union in 9/11 not having happened yet. Kids going outside and doing shit. When I was a kid, every day was a new adventure with my friends. We'd go on bike rides, play in the creek, go hiking in the woods, and run from the neighborhood bullies. I have an 8-year-old niece that does absolutely nothing. She doesn't know how to ride a bike and spends her summers at home playing on a tablet or watching TV. Most kids her age do the same shit. No one goes outside or has a social life anymore. Seriously, what happened? Hearing rock and roll on the radio that wasn't the same old classic rock. My grandpa. My youth. Mystery. Not having read everything. The feeling that anything could happen. Because you haven't learned, read, seen so many things. Things being super fresh. How uninhibited, freshly uncensored and creative people were because they weren't constantly preoccupied with their social media presence. Being attacked online. People diminish their energy now tremendously because of social media. It isn't even close to the same universe. People pretend not to be uptight and suffocated in that way, to pretend to vibe, but it will never stop looking put onto me. The old AOL chat rooms. I met so many cool and interesting people in those rooms. In fact, I met my longtime partner in 500 one-bedroom apartments homes under 120k. No social media, not always being online. I was young, so my computer usage was limited really to playing offline computer games, doing some research on the internet about my homework topics, and using my Encarta CDs lol. Otherwise the online world didn't touch those years at all for me, and all my memories are of being outside, doing things face to face, and goofing around and just not feeling the stress of being always connected. People weren't as easily offended, and didn't have online echo chambers to feed off each other. During the 90s, I was aged 27, so those were some good years for me. My oldest was born in the early 2000s, so when I look back at the 90s all I remember is freedom. Free from most adult responsibilities. Free from social media. Free from bullshit politics, they were there for sure, but you literally had to look for them. LOL. Free from a general miasma of fear coming from the media. When I think back, all I remember is sunshine. The lack of a weight bearing down on my shoulders all the time and the sweet sounds of amazing music. While I miss it, I'm just grateful that I got to experience it. Friday night at Blockbuster renting movies for the weekend. Bradley Nowell, Kurt Cobain, Tupac, Biggie, Big L. The body I had when I was 20. Optimism about the world. Pre 9/11 there wasn't a huge culture of fear in America and it actually seemed like we could tackle some of humanity's challenges. Now we are fighting over whether science is true and how much we should be allowed to torture and kill brown people. The internet being made up of AOL chat rooms instead of just being Reddit, Facebook, Twitter. A lot more value for your money pretty much everywhere, especially with food. Anyone remember Klondike bars used to be duckin' huge? Now they are 1 for the size. Being able to afford a decent one British rail apartment on the top floor of a building in a nice, trendy neighborhood of Seattle on 28k a year. My rent was $550 a month for several years. No ducking cell phones. No ducking email. Leave me the duck alone when I'm not at work. The original recipe for Lucas powder candy. Yes, I know it had lead in it. No, I don't care. My body being young. I don't necessarily want to be that age again. My life is too good now, just want to be in that shape. Listening to music on the radio. It was much easier to listen to new music when I wasn't really in control of the music I listened to. Now I'm one of those people with the same playlist with few songs that never gets really updated. The music. For starters, Offspring, Oasis, Gin Blossoms, Collective Soul. So much better than Taylor Swift and One Direction. The clothes. So much more comfortable. The makeup. Darker lipstick was super flattering with my coloring. The TV. No one seems to know how to make a good sitcom anymore. The music. It felt original, creative and heartfelt. Today, for me, music feels packaged. It's just another product being sold to a consumer. Don't get me wrong, great music still exists. You just gotta look real hard for it. Not like the 90s. Great original music was everywhere. Not being contactable, and it was okay. If anyone wanted to talk to me, they would either have to call the landline, come to my house hoping I was home, or just wait until the next time they saw me.